Welcome back to another episode of
Wow, how'd you do that?
That's Tony Tran.
The Careful Boys.
Tony Tran.
Is that what he sounds like?
So, honestly, what are some of your guys' favorite podcasts that you listen to?
Ooh.
Oh, Just Kidding News.
Shut your ass up, dude.
No, actually,
Shut your dumb.
When I wake up or if I'm going to take a going to sleep or something, I literally go on my subscribe list and the first thing that always pops is JK News. I always
That's
click
cool.
You
You listen to us.
Honestly?
Yeah.
He's probably just admiring his own edits.
No,
He's like, God damn, that swipe left was sick.
So I'll watch it because I'm not always listening to the conversations all the time when I'm in there. So when I'm like, oh, a new one came out and I don't edit it all the time. It's my team that edits it. So I like to watch it just to see like how it is. Yeah. And then next thing you know, I'm like 3 videos like deep. I'm like, oh, this is something that I like watching. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
There's a couple I like.
Who do you like?
I like, for Joe Rogan, I have specific ones I realized. I like when he interviews fighters. Mm-hmm. So I think in the fight game, because he's a huge like student of the history and all that stuff, so it's really interesting and he asks good questions. And I like random obscure ones. I notice when he has like famous people on, I don't really care about those.
Like celebrities?
Yeah, like I don't really care about when he interviews those guys, but when he has like random like this guy followed deer for 4 years or
Those
whatever,
guys are the coolest.
like this random shit like that, it's so interesting. I like those. The Jackson podcast with Quentin Jackson, that was fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
What's that about?
Quentin Jackson has a podcast.
MMA podcast.
Yeah, and it's like
Why you?
he's just
They're our main competitors. They kill us. They crush us, dude.
but you have a fucking UFC champion there, so it's just like
Yeah, no.
but he's fucking hilarious.
man.
And he's
He's the
the
man.
funniest dude alive.
He's so good.
I like Chris Williamson. I feel like
he's dope.
I feel like I'm smart just by listening to him.
Who do you like that goes on his pod?
Well, I like how he prepares.
The questions he asks is really
So
good.
his questions are always good. I like him. I also listen to the Diary of a CEO guy every now and then.
Yeah.
And then one that I like too is Iced Coffee Hour actually with Graham
Yeah.
Stephan. Because like I feel like some guys are really, really smart, but what I like on their take is they have like a very layman's, really relatable approach to things. So like even though like Graham Stephan's like a multi-millionaire himself, he asks questions not like he's at their level already. He's just extracting more information in a very digestible way.
I like hosts like that.
Which I think is very cool.
He's a great host.
You know what else?
Him and his buddy that does it.
I like Duncan Trussell's Family Hour.
Yeah, you like that?
Dude, I
That's
love
tight.
that shit.
Tiff loves that.
So because it's the way that he formats it, it's like there's a silly ass intro that he writes, and it's always like a random song or something he wrote or whatever, right? Because he's a comedian, so he would really prep his intros really well, and then he goes into like the real intro, which is like, oh, today we have this guest, blah blah blah, blah, and then start the podcast.
I've been
I
liking
love that shit.
Sean Ryan because ever since the remote viewers, and then I like his because he has a lot of government and veterans, and then the inside stories of their world. He recently had this lady Lindy Lee on, and she was Biden. She's like a major campaign person,
Like a campaign manager or something.
for the Democratic Party. And then she was kind of the first to whistleblow like his condition. And then now she actually works for the Trump campaign.
Wow.
So she switched sides. And then, I mean, I don't know how honest, it's like, yeah, you're working for Trump, so obviously you're gonna say different shit, right? But I'm just fascinated by that world and the insiders of that world telling us stuff about it.
Yeah, his some of the special ops guys he has on the craziest stories.
And those podcasts are like 4 hours long, dude. And they're like so fascinating. We can't turn that show off.
What's it called, Sean Ryan?
Sean Ryan,
He himself is a Navy SEAL and former CIA contractor.
I like the way he asks questions. I remember when he was on the Rogan podcast, he just kept asking Rogan questions.
Before we start, I did get you.
Yeah, and he has a little gift for everyone. all the
Dude, yeah,
time.
he always has a quest.
And then he opens it and he's like, "Oh, gummy bears."
I love these, man. I love
And it's like
these.
a dude with like, he's just tatted the fuck up, just fucking killed like 1 million people, and he goes, I always wanted to try these, thank you.
I love gummy worms.
And then recently he's been giving out fucking cigs and shit, like the
Dude.
gun. I'm like, what the fuck?
From
Can you
the
get-
manufacturer?
Yeah, can you get me on the show? I want a free cig. That's crazy.
What about you, Anthony?
I'm ready.
I've been listening to Gavin Newsom a lot.
For real?
Fuck no.
Dude.
Have you guys seen that one
No.
with Charlie Kirk?
So, see certain clips.
I've seen certain clips. Yeah.
I was super surprised when he kind of flip flopped on the whole trans issue.
Yep.
Interesting. Didn't you say he was trying to go Republican though?
No, I didn't say that.
Somebody about it, and they were watching his stuff, and they're saying like, "Oh, I think he's like making a shift to be more."
Well, I think
Republican.
Charlie's too smart for him, so he can get him to flip flop without Gavin even knowing what the hell's happening and making him contradict himself. 'Cause he's just asking questions.
Because that
Think
guy
about
Charlie
this.
Kirk,
Think about this.
he's a really good speaker. That dude, he's really persuasive.
He's like fast.
He's a very logical, like almost feels like a former high school debate team type dude.
Yeah, like that's his wheelhouse.
Yeah, like
I used to not like him,
Yeah.
but I like him now. I think the way that he talks to college students now, it's a lot nicer. Like before, it was just like a slam dunk, fuck you, like kind of like a
Condescending.
smug asshole.
Damn.
And now it seems like he genuinely cares about the future of America and he wants to teach. And the approach comes from a more like brotherly figure.
Because he probably realized that like when he would be more relatable or like nicer when he talks to people, he's like, oh, this is a better way to get them to think like what I'm thinking.
and he almost tries to help get the answer out from the person.
Like
Whereas
leading
before he's
questions.
just like, these are the answers. But then it'll be like now it'll be like, oh, you think it's like cool to just come on colleges and like dunk on all of us? And he goes, but are you guys also voters? So I'm talking to voters. You know, so it's like, it's
He
like,
reframes it.
Yeah, he reframes it, and then people go, oh, no, fine, I see what you're saying.
makes a lot of good
He'll
points.
ask a lot of questions in order, like you said, to extract like an understanding versus like just like throwing out information that you can't come to yourself, so you won't learn from it or appreciate
Yeah,
it.
like here are my stats, and you shut the fuck up. Versus like, well, I'll ask you questions, and then we'll reach a conclusion together.
I find myself one ramping up into like enjoying podcasts a little bit more. I think sometimes like I can get a little like ADHD on it and just like kind of like suddenly I want to be entertained by something else, because sometimes podcasting is like, I think that I'm being efficient if I'm like extracting and learning information versus just hearing conversation and being entertained by it.
There's a difference.
Yeah, so it's like, it's hard for me to just be like, oh, I want to hear some people talk today. A lot of times I just want to either be entertained by something visual or I want to learn something.
Oh, you know what my fucking Asian tiger dad style thing I do to myself is?
That looks like some chastising on some
Yeah.
religious shit.
I think I have to do 2 learnings before I do an enjoyable one.
That's probably good.
Oh, that's
So I'll listen to 2 bigger pockets, and then
Bigger Pockets is
Then I earned myself a Quentin Jackson.
That's tight. I would never used to watch the financial ones, but Tiff would always like have it on.
Really?
And then like Tiff is always watching Bigger Pockets.
Wow.
I would always watch the
Like
Dave
Dave
Ramsey.
Ramsey?
I would watch Dave Ramsey. She watched Bigger Pockets, and then we started watching like sometimes we watch Iced Coffee Hour too. We've been watching the Caleb Hammer Show. Have you seen that one? Nope.
Oh, that guy, the one that looks at your debt.
I used to like think he was so mean, like so fucked up. But then like I know part of the show is like him getting these people who are just like, what are you doing? And also too, it's like he does have to talk to these people this way when he's like breaking their financials, because he'll break down a basic principle of like, you're not making enough money for what you're spending. Like that's like the principle across the board. And it's like he has to reframe that over and over and over to these people, and they're just like, what are you talking about? This is no problem. Or they'll like rationalize it, right? And it's just interesting to see how he kind of like talks people off the ledge with certain situations, and hopefully he could get them to change. Because like where they come onto the show, like yeah, they want to change, but it seems like they're not ready for change yet. So he's like berating them for like an hour. But I like that show. But Bigger Pockets, I really like the most. Because it's like,
I used,
because
to
you're
listen, I used to listen to it the most when it was Brandon Turner and then the other guy, David Green. But they both left.
Got it.
But they have a lot of other good guys. So it's about real estate. For all kinds, though. Like multifamily, Airbnb, apartment complex, the economy, interest rates, lending, like all the different aspects of it. So you really like learn.
And then like they interview a ton of people that do like the FIRE method, where they just like save a bunch of money and they retire like early by the time like they're 40 or 50 or whatever. And then you just hear like their journey, and you keep hearing the same like talking points of like, yeah, we just had to get out there, work together, me and my wife, to go out there and start like thinking of like what you said about in the Junbi video, where you're like, oh yeah, like take matters in our own hands and let's actually see what we could do as a family and not worry about like making money in a traditional like 9 to 5.
Yeah.
So it's cool to see that, because it's like hearing other people talk about it over and over and over again, you're like, okay, cool.
Because getting into
I can
real
do
estate
this.
is pretty daunting. Cause it's like
Super
this
scary.
whole process, right? Like you think the first big purchase is usually a car, then the next one it's like a house, and you have all this like terms you never heard of, and then they have people on. They're like, oh, I own 30 apartment complexes, but I started with one.
Yeah,
And
dude.
then you're like, what the hell? That's fucking crazy. You just think they're just random, like the rich people in the world, and then you hear their story, and you're like, oh shit, it's like actually just step by step, it's achievable.
For sure, everything.
I used to read the forums on Bigger Pockets.
Yeah, see, the forums
I
are
got into the podcast.
There was this one dude, his name is Noah Kagan or something.
Oh yeah, he's good.
Yeah, he's dope. And he would just interview like different entrepreneurs and just hearing their story. Like those are always really cool. Especially when you feel like you're like stuck in a rut and you're like, I don't know if I'm doing the right thing or whatever. So you listen to these and you're like, okay, cool. It helps you kind of like get the mindset right for the week. But those
I
ones
think
I
there's
like.
a lot of the people in the finance space or like the self-help kind of, but for like money.
Yeah.
And then after a while, it started to get too redundant for me.
Yeah.
And I think it's
You're past it now.
Yeah, like it's the same stuff, right? Like you'll start to hear the same information. You can also start to predict what they're going to say next. But it makes a lot of sense because most people are at a certain point. And then once in a while I'll find an obscure like podcast and then they're getting really nerdy about this one little thing in marketing or like this one little thing in investing. And I'm like deep diving into that, but then it's only got like 1,000 views. Because no one really like cares about
It's
it.
like early adopter type of thing where there's some gold, but nobody knows about it
But
yet
yeah.
until they do, and then it's
Yeah.
just. Kind
I bet some of the more in-depth stuff requires a certain level of understanding to even nerd out about, like that
Yeah, I
kind of
think
stuff.
so.
It's like a deep dive,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I've been hearing a lot about AI for sure on like different podcasts. That's a common theme. And what's another one like health shit and like because finances it's kind of like the same. You know, you can only learn the same lesson so many times.
It's kind of like how everyone says, just stick to the basics and you'll be
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And that's what I notice about like,
Every endeavor.
like fitness and health, right? Like it's like, yeah, you gotta just sleep, eat, work out, and then
yeah.
like how much more can you talk about the same thing? But they find a very interesting angle, no matter what, to do it.
Yeah.
But I think I'm like at this point where that's a 2-3 hour podcast, bro. Like I see myself skipping, and then I'm like, okay, there's nothing new.
Sometimes I'll listen to podcasts on like 1.5x.
Yeah, I do that too. So I could just get the information out. Yeah.
I want to know if I'm like gonna submit myself to like this entire conversation.
Yeah.
You know, it's a random one because I'll be taking like long drives with like Nina through, you know, from Vegas to LA and vice versa. She really likes listening to Crime Junkies.
Hell yeah.
What is that?
It's just like these two girls, right? And they just talk about random crime stories, sometimes solved, sometimes unsolved. And it basically kind of came off, I feel like, of Serial.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Hell yeah.
Like,
Serial was so good, dude.
Everyone was.
What's that about?
They followed this one. It was an NPR podcast, and they followed this one mysterious case where there was a lot of like questions around it, and they followed this Korean girl who was murdered by her, what they think is her ex-boyfriend. But when you go into the story, you realize like, oh, at the end of it, you're like, I don't know who the fuck did it.
There's holes everywhere.
And she investigates every
They
aspect.
found her body in a forest or whatever.
Yeah, every episode they do is like a deep dive into the case, or like an aspect of the case, right?
But it was unsolved at the time, but it became such a viral kind of like first of its kind.
It was
type
like one of the first
podcast.
big like narrative podcasts.
Yeah, and then because of it though, like they like legally like went right back into the case. They opened things up. Like the public demanded more answers. So like
took the case or some shit, right?
Yeah.
so
The
it
interest,
became, like,
yeah.
huge kind of national.
And then didn't the guy get released from prison?
I think so.
Because they found out he was actually innocent or whatever. But then that guy was in prison for like 20 years. or some
So
shit.
crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
But because of the podcast, they were finally able to like
The reasonable
out-
doubt
yeah,
of
then-
like
yeah.
if he actually did it or not.
Yeah.
Pretty sick.
Oh, it's so cool.
Through it, there like different podcasts. There's a number of them that have like crime related stuff, but Crime Junkies is a very popular one as well. And they'll do similar stuff. It's not as long. It's not like fucking 12 episodes to talk about one thing. It might be one episode to talk about. Let me just tell you about this really, really interesting crime story that happened. And then there was a recent one about some bodies that were allegedly like buried in this one area, and like they had done like 2 mini excavations that like proved that like, oh, we couldn't find anything and there's not enough budget, so we're probably gonna have to like close this case for good. There's no funding, and then the city wants to like build infrastructure and other things on this area, which made it so that people who felt pressure and wanted to like fight and appeal like what that situation was, to like see if there was evidence of like those bodies there. They like made a lot of noise through these podcasts and stuff and said, hey, you guys are the city's gonna go and make it so we'll never be able to check it again. Like we need to like garner enough like, you know, I guess just press in general to make sure that they can go in for one final excavation with enough money to like really deep dive, because more evidence is just pointing to this like 50-year-old case that was unsolved. Wow. And literally like a month ago or a couple weeks ago, they were like, all right, we're gonna go into like one last excavation for it. So there's like ongoing updates of like different things. I mean, I think that it's still they're still working on it, still digging and stuff. But like
exciting.
it's crazy to like hear of unsolved cases, because it was about this dude who like would kidnap like girls from like a baseball game or something like that, and like they were missing, and then like next thing you know, that's just an unsolved murder from like 50 years ago, and then like 10 years later suddenly like the same kind of like MO pops up, and the same kind of description of the same kind of guy that was drawn that was never found comes up, and then it turns out like the guy who was like exonerated suddenly becomes prime suspect number 1 again, but you got to find a legal way to make it so that they can be a suspect for a different reason, because you can't on some like double jeopardy type stuff, you can't like bring that, and it just gets so exciting and interesting because you're like, you want justice for this family, and the last living member who's like now 90, the parents who like just need some sort of peace before they die. It's like they just want to know like what happened to their daughters like 50 years ago type stuff.
Just imagine like not knowing where they are.
So it's just
no peace.
It's I mean, it's obviously tragic, but it's like really interesting to hear about these details and like just be caught up through a story of a crime. It's really fun.
Thank God for police databases, man.
Crime podcast. I stopped listening to a lot of crime podcasts because it would get super heavy, and it would be like what you would say, Joe. Like you kind of know the story already before you hear it, and that's when you go like, I think I'm listening to this shit too much.
You know what I shifted towards lately is audiobooks, though. I think that's like, because a lot of podcasts get their info from these books, and I'm like, I'm just gonna go straight to the source.
I used to binge a lot of like things like that because it was like really interesting, but then I realized it also takes effect of your worldview. So if you're thinking about killing every fucking day, you know what I mean? Like it's interesting, but then like it kind of makes your world a little dark.
Dude, when I'm listening or watching a ton of like fucked up content like that, whether it's like a lot of crime stuff,
Documentaries.
I'll be working with clients and I just will bring it up because it's on my mind all the time, and I'll just keep doing that all day, and then I'm like, yo, I gotta stop talking about murder with like my friends and my clients.
Yeah, that's why I don't watch those things either, because I'm like,
Because it does like, it stews in your brain.
Yeah,
You're
I
just
want
like,
a
what the
balance of like, yo, man, I want to watch a golden retriever chase its own tail,
awesome.
and then a fucking turtle and a rabbit making friends.
I love
What are some
those.
fun
You know,
like if you're trying to listen to some fun shit, what do you listen to?
Fun shit right now.
You want to be entertained.
I mean, I'm always fascinated by like things like ancient aliens and like conspiracies. Like that's like never not gonna hit.
Yeah.
Like when you talk about like ancient civilizations or like people that had like crazy, you know, alien or psychedelic experiences, or on some like other crazy weird frequency stuff. Like that stuff's always really entertaining. I got into this whole thing with damn, what's that black guy's name? Who, if it's not Graham Hancock, it's this other guy who has like he was on Andrew Schultz.
Neil?
No.
Billy Carson.
Billy Carson. Billy Carson pods. There was a period where I was listening to his stuff and I was like, this is insane. I think it was right after the Terrence Howard phase.
But he got Terrence Howard right recently by this dude named Wes Huff.
West, yeah.
Billy Carson and Terrence Howard were on a pod.
No. Like you know how Terrence Howard got checked by a scientist?
Neil deGrasse Tyson, right?
Yeah.
Well, by a lot of other scientists.
They did like a debate, I think.
Yeah.
And then, Billy Carson, with his whole like understanding of the ancient world, his idea of Christianity, all that, got checked by a debater that is like, he can read ancient texts. He went through he published shit, and then like he was like, actually you're wrong. And then like Billy Carson didn't have any sources. Ooh. And then when he did try to pull sources, the West Huff guy goes, well, yeah, that source that you're talking about, it's a forgery, and this is the reason why. Ooh. So a lot of his beliefs were like taken down. Yeah.
Yeah, I heard about that.
But
I kind of want to see that.
at the end of the day, if you look at Billy Carson as a great sci-fi fiction and like the world builder, fucking entertainment, dude.
I think that's like the pocket that I enjoy in those random moments that I do listen to podcasts, because like I said, it's like it feels like education, but it's high level entertainment.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what JK News